morning.
Morning, Mark-Marie.
It is so nice to have you with me again. For for anybody who doesn't know, I did an amazing little talk show with Talanie a few weeks ago. It was about joy, because this woman understands something about joy. And but today we're going to speak about something that kind of brings joy to you, and that is sheep. So tell me, why does sheep?
That's true, Mark-Marie.
Why does sheep bring you so much joy?
Thank you for having me and the opportunity to share my joy with the rest of the world. All right, let me just give you a short explanation where I come from. I grew up on a farm. My dad was a landowner. He was also a farmer himself, and I was always involved in his doings. I was with him kind of all day. He had sheep, he had cattle, and then the rest of the farming activities. I went to university after school. Finished after university, I came down to the Western Cape, where I was involved in different farming practices. Like I project managed and developed a wine farm. I also cultivated the grapes. I made the wine. I developed an organic vegetable farm. After that, I developed and I managed a game farm, a dairy, a cattle stud. And during this time, I also started my own organic free-range piggery. That was very interesting. I learned a lot from how naughty a pig can be, but also how intelligent a pig can be. After that, I was offered a job in the Eastern Cape, where I started my own goat farming. I did that for a few years, and then I acquired my own land, and I started sheep farming. The reason why I started sheep farming is sheep is a very easy animal to handle. They get very tame. They are not naughty like goats. They don't run away. You have to have fencing, that's of course, but they don't jump on your cars or come into your garden and eat everything. They also multiply rapidly. They utilize marginal grazing very well. They keep your weeds down, and they don't discriminate on what they eat. They fertilize your place well, and they better your grazing easily. In other words, sheep, basic of a sheep. Right. I started intensive sheep farming. The reason why I did that, my land was too small to do it extensively. And I'm also a hands-on person. I like to work with animals physically. I like to see them up close and personal. I like to handle them. I like to see if their well-being is good, if they're happy, and if they're peaceful, and how the lambs are. That's why I went to a woman that spearheaded this whole intensive sheep farming project in South Africa. I know it's available in other places in the world. How they do it, I don't know. So I went to her. I asked her to mentor me, because my knowledge of sheep was more to the extensive side than to the intensive side. So she gave me I was introduced to a sheep school for a few days. I acquired my sheep, and I started the intensive farming. The reason why the intensive farming, it was easy for me to keep up to 3 times more sheep on a piece of land that I had than what I was able to do in the extensive.
Okay, but explain to me. Just stop quickly. Explain to me why. Why was it possible to have 3 times more sheep than normally? What makes a difference?
Right. The difference between the intensive and extensive. The intensive, there's a certain time that more than half your sheep is in an enclosure, and you feed them where they're not outside in the natural grazing. So you keep them. The moment they start come into lambing, you bring them into your enclosure, into small camps, in a shed where they're protected. There they give birth to their lambs, and you feed them during the time when the lamb grows. What also happens is you can synchronize your lambing time. You can source good male genes that in their genes they give multiple babies, like more than one. They give 2 or 3. That's why the chances that you detect a disease or an ailment in the intensive program is a lot better when they are outside. They're protected here. When there's 1 or 2 ewes that don't have enough milk, you can add to that. So the smaller ones, the weaker ones, get enough milk to grow faster. You see them where they are when they start. You weigh them. You see that they gain weight every day, like a certain amount of gram. That must happen. Otherwise, it's not profitable. Then after a while in the enclosure, like 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the growth and the weight, they go outside during daytime, they come back during nighttime. You feed them till they're old enough to wean from the mothers, then they go into one facility, the mothers go outside. Then the next head count come into lambing. So your field are not exposed to all the sheep at one time. You keep your lambs separate, you feed them until they're old enough and weigh enough to be slaughtered and to be presented to the consumer. That is the intensive sheep farming base.
Great. So Talanie, I know that you have a business idea for America, but before we get into that, I kind of want to ask you a question. You know, my knowledge about sheep is really, 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 really limited. But sometimes when we drive past the Karoo or through the Karoo, we will see the sheep standing in this one line with their heads and their butts kind of linked into each other. Why do they do that?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. They actually do it for shade when it's very hot. But farmers like my dad, he was not so enthusiastic about sheep than I am. He didn't like it very much. So I asked him as a very small child, Dad, why do the sheep stand like that? Why do they stand with their head together? And he would say, they tell each other, let us die. Because, you know, sheep comes from biblical times. So they're all ready for heaven. So they say, all right, let's go. It's heaven time now.
It looks like they're gossiping, eh? They put their heads in there. You kind of feel like get some FOMO because you don't know what they're talking about.
Probably the unsaved ones will gossip, and the saved ones will say, "Let's go to heaven." So you also get the rebellious ones. That's not part of this project.
Okay, so we are actually here today because you want to take this intensive farming to the US. Why in the world the US?
Yes, I would love to do that. And the reason for that is, first of all, it's not very safe in our country to have to farm, especially with a product that you can turn into food. Our situation is unstable. Farmers get attacked, and a lot of other political situations. That's the first problem. Secondly, the US import more than half of the sheep that they consume. So there is a market, and government also put incentives out for farmers to develop and have more sheep on their land. There's a story that I read, and I know it's true, that there's a bit of a resistance towards sheep, because during the wartime, the soldiers were given canned mutton, and they got so tired of that taste. They said, no more mutton ever again. But there is a market for it, and I know that because that's why they import it. And I want to step into that market and present a good product to the consumer, not just a product that it's available on the shelves, but a product that they can trace back to the farmer and see the quality and the effort that goes into it. With that said, I want to, and I would like to, my heart's desire is to develop in the community an info center, also a co-op, where the participating farmers in this intensive program that will be monitored, that the meat can go there. You can also do direct marketing. There's certain restrictions in the US, I'm aware of that, but we'll have to find a way to work around or with that. So the meat will be available in the co-op. People from towns can come. There will be information available on the farmer and the challenges. There will also be other products available, like Someone might have chickens that's free range, organic and certified, because all of these products must be certified. Otherwise, we can't give quality. We can't guarantee. So this is how it's been grown. This is how it's been how it's been fed on the farm. This is the product that they use to feed it with. In that, I also want to include children. They call it the NDD. That is a nature deficit disorder. And that happens when children don't go outside anymore. They don't play outside. They don't get stimulated with outside activities. So this info center, I want to be like a day out. There must be games available. The education will be there. There will also be knowledge will be exchangeable there between farmers as the consumer seek the product that they're there for. With that, there's a link I want to develop that families will be able to go to the farm where the sheep, the chicken, or the produce has been produced. So they can start to interact with the farmer and see the quality of husbandry that's available and we will make use of. So that's very important to me, to give the respect to the animal and to the tree, whatever you work with, to bring the best harvest possible to the consumer. And the consumer must know and be aware of what they're paying for and why do they pay the price and the effort and the cost and the sacrifice the farmer goes through to have that product available. Good animal husbandry is not just to see to your animals every day. Your animals must be medicated. They must be looked after, their feet, their ears, their teeth, like any living being. They must be peaceful, they must be well fed, the babies must be well fed, the area where they're in must be clean, hygienic, fresh water, fresh food available, and the attendance. And all that makes a difference. Not many consumers are aware of this. They don't know how it works. They have no idea. Bring children into that might create also an interest in farming because they don't get stimulated with the practical ways of farm. So there they can see it. And there's also a tendency of small communities that get smaller and smaller in the US because of small enterprises and prices that's been pushed down. People sold their cattle, for instance, their dairies, they closed that down because of a price issue. So they can change over to this intensive sheep farming project and bring people back again from where they've moved to, back to the countryside and have the community be uplifted and educated. And they will get excited to start this project, just as excited as I am to present it to them.
Wow, I am excited because what I'm hearing here is, first of all, there's incentives from government. So, hey, government is willing to pay you to do this, okay, or at least help you to do this. Then I hear organic meat, okay. In today's day and time, organic meat feels like the answer to everything. If you're not vegan or vegetarian, but for the rest of us, we all want healthy meat. Then I hear education. Let's teach children, let's teach the next generation. I think many times, especially in today's time, you get children asking the weirdest questions. I know that I'm still teaching my brother's children, hey, where do we get milk? Milk comes from a cow, and you kind of have to continue to put it into them because we don't get it in the way that we did in the past. So education for me, it sounds like, and then the last thing that really excites me is kind of just getting communities, to work together again, having a co-ed, working together, and what I'm hearing is kind of just a space where communities can come together and where the products, all organic products, can be sold and experienced together. That is really, wow, I'm getting excited about that. I want to be a part. I want to come visit. Where are you going to be?
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But tell me quickly, Talanie, so if we're talking about the US, it's interesting what you said about the canned meat, but anyway, if we talk about the US, the sheep that we are talking about there, do you need to import them? Are they there already? Is there enough sheep to start something like this? If they import all their meat, what will be needed when you get there in terms of animals.
But Marie, there are places where they do intensive sheep farming. I don't know how intensive they do it, and I don't know exactly their protocol in doing it. But there are definitely sheep available that adapt easily to this program, because it must be sheep that don't get situations like enclosure lends itself to pneumonia in animals, but you get sheep breeds that are more resistant to that. So that will be sourced, and I'm sure it will be available, because I know some people have enclosures, they have the small camps. So I'll rather go with what's available there and enhance that than to look for something outside the States.
Okay. And tell me quickly, are we talking meat sheep or are we talking wool sheep? What are we talking about here?
We're talking meat sheep here. Wool sheep, the difference between the two is more growth go into the wool if it's a wool sheep, because your profit comes from the wool. Here, the profit comes from the meat, but there will be wool available, although a smaller amount of wool. But that being said, that wool can be used to cover a certain overhead, so nothing will go to waste. And even where the sheep will be slaughtered, where they manufactured, all that offcuts can be used to produce animal food like dog food, cat food, because that also will be certified organic because it comes from the same animal. And the enclosures where we use the bedding, there will be bedding like shaves from certain kind of trees that will be used in the enclosures. That bedding can get exchanged every week because it will be wet and full of droppings. That can be sold as compost. So there are many spin-offs from this whole enterprise that you want to start. It's not just the meat. There are other things that would go with that.
Well, I'm just thinking teaching children how to shear a sheep could be fun in that educational, center of yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. The sheep can be taken to the center, or they can go to the farm when it's shearing time and they can experience it. They can do it themselves.
Yeah. So, Talanie, you told me before about milk, sheep milk. Tell me more. I'm still stunned.
Yes. The sheep milk, it's not something that's well known. There are sheep that give milk. It's called the Huyssteen sheep in the United States. They do make cheese of it. The origin of this sheep comes from the Middle East. It was the Bedouin tribe and also other tribes used them to travel with them in the desert. It's a hardened sheep. They utilize food, the smallest morsel of food they utilize. They also have a tendency, they breed not to have the fat around the carcass as such, but more to the tail. So when you slaughter a sheep like the Huyssteen that's now used for milk, you find it's a very lean meat. There are people that prefer a very lean meat because all the fat is in the tail. So why this sheep worked so well for them, when they go into drier situations like a month or 2 months, the sheep can draw from the fat from the sheep and maintain themselves for a certain amount of time. But they are mainly for their milk. They produce a lot of milk. Their protein fat content in the milk is very balanced, so you can make a very good cheese that you can put on your shelf for a long time, and it enhances the flavor of the sheep, of the milk, of the cheese, the longer you keep it on the shelf. Like a wine, good cheese, good wine go together.
Amen, sister. So, Talanie, if you are clearly having a plan here, and you are really, I can hear that sheep and intensive farming is something that you are passionate about. What would be the next step for you? What is needed for you to get to the US and start something like this? What is needed?
I would need one of two things: either a business person that would like to get involved and start something like this because he's got the interest or she's got the interest in farming, and a farming that's a little bit different from the farm way that we know it, someone that wants to be hands-on, or existing farmer that, say, for instance, had a dairy, he sold out because of the price problem they have for the smaller to medium enterprise dairies, smaller dairies. He's got the infrastructure, he still wants to farm. So this will be an excellent second way, or a new startup for him to do the intensive sheep farming, either the milk or the meat.
If you think about just starting this, you know, so because now I'm thinking I'm either the business person or I'm the farmer. I'm going to have to put some capital into this. In terms of dollars, do you have kind of an idea of what kind of amount are we talking about to kickstart something like this? Because it sounds to me like there's a little bit of research that needs to happen still. And then, you know, with how many sheep do you start? And what is kind of, if you have to thumb suck, it doesn't have to be, but what are kind of the figures that we're talking about to get this startup going?
You see, to get a startup, to start a startup is always the balance between expense and profit, and the scale, the profitability of the point of scale. So for me, sitting here in South Africa, I know how to do it here because I know the rand value, I know the price of food, I know the price of the meat on the shelf, and meat that is been involved with direct marketing, etc. So it's difficult for me to say from here. And I also know that prices in the States differ a little bit from the north and the south and the east and the west. Where sheep is available already, it will obviously a little bit cheaper than if I want to introduce it to more where there are less sheep available. I can't give you $1. To start off, you can start with 50 or 100 sheep because they multiply rapidly. If you're not sure of yourself and you say, let's start small, you can start with 100. You know, if you have more than one baby at the sheep, more than one lamb at you double your sheep within a year, and they carry their babies for 4.5 months. So it's like 1.2, 1.5, up to 2 times within a year and a half, just roughly. I hope someone doesn't go to his books and say that's not true, because this is just an estimate, an idea. You can start with as many as you want. Okay. And work from there until you find your feet and you see where you can market it, being involved in the center, or whatever is available at that place.
Well. But yeah, I don't have any other questions. Do you have anything else? Do you want to add that you need to tell me?
I just want to know. I can keep you busy for a very long time. We can sit here the whole day. I would like to do that. But I think it's an opportunity. I think it's a profitable opportunity. I think it's not it's an easy opportunity if you're interested in farming or you have background of farming. I think it's one of the easier opportunities to add value to your farm and to get a profit. Sheep turn a profit quickly. So it's not a long-term thing, it's a short-term thing. And then from there on, it escalates. And you can decide, how many do I want? Where do I want to stop? Where's my market? Do I want to sell lamb or do I want to sell mutton? Now, it's also diverse in the opportunities that you have with the product.
Well, Talanie, maybe we should talk that I can buy a few scarpies to put on some land here in my garden. I'm excited about this. Thank you so much for your time today, and I really wish you luck and all the best. And I'm excited. I know that doors is going to open, and I know that there is a huge anointing on what is in your heart. So I wish you best. I wish you just all the best and all the luck in the world. And I look forward to see you in the US very, very soon.
Very soon, Mark-Marie. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate that. Have a wonderful day.
Anytime. We'll talk again soon. Take care.